Hi everyone, welcome to the Microsoft Ignite. In this session, we will be covering trend response with Microsoft Sentinel playbooks. My name is Benjamin Kovacevic, but everybody calls me Benji, and I'm a program manager in our Microsoft Sentinel CXA team. Today with me is Javier.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this session. So my name is Javier Soriano, Senior Program Manager in the Microsoft Sentinel Customer Experience Engineering team. I see that we have people here today from many parts in the world: South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Stockholm, Ohio, Munich, Finland, UK. So truly a global audience. So let's go for it, Benji.
Yeah, can't wait for it. And quick info, this will be a sneak peek into the new learning module. So stay tuned with us and what we'll be covering. We are currently upgrading our Learn module on Learn, Microsoft Learn, and soon it will be publicly available to everyone. We also want to say hi to our moderators, Ken Lawson and Rod Trent. Thank guys for helping us today with our session. So in this Learn module, we will be going through explanation about Microsoft Sentinel SOAR capabilities, so what they are and how they are working inside of the Microsoft Sentinel. We will explore Microsoft Sentinel Logic App Connector, so all the triggers and actions, so you will learn more. Then we will show you how to run those playbooks on demand in response to the incident, as well as how to orchestrate automation inside of the Microsoft Sentinel to an incident response. For those who want actually to go through this module and to learn more, what you actually need is to deploy Microsoft Sentinel, enable data connector or data connectors, and enable analytic rules connected to that data connector that will actually trigger incidents so that you can run playbook as a response to an incident. For those who want to do it quickly and easy way, we have inside of our Content Hub, which is an amazing hub with more than 200 solutions. We have solution that is called Microsoft Sentinel Training Lab that will actually do this enablement of data connectors for you. It will deploy several playbooks, analytic rules, hunting queries, etc. that is connected to Microsoft Sentinel environment.
Cool. So let's start with the session itself. Let's start with the introduction. So first of all, I mean, probably you all know already what Microsoft Sentinel is, right? It's our SIEM and SOAR solution. SIEM is security information and event management, and SOAR is the security orchestration, automation, and response. Basically, yeah, SIEM solutions provide the storage analysis of logs and events and generate alerts by themselves. And also they get feeds from other products of alerts from those. And then the SOAR solutions support the remediation of vulnerabilities and the overall automation of security processes. In terms of Microsoft Sentinel automation, just focusing on what capabilities we have in here. So it takes two different forms in our service. First of all, we have what we call automation rules. These allow users to centrally manage the automation of incident handling, and they are defined as a set of conditions and actions. I will be talking about this in much depth today. And also we have playbooks. That's the other shape that automation takes in Sentinel, which basically help automate and orchestrate your threat response. So they are defined as a collection of response, mediation actions, and other logic and flows that can actually be executed as a routine. They can be manually run or automatically run, depending on the use case, and we'll be reviewing all those things today. Okay, so let's start with playbooks. So first of all, before we go into the details of how playbooks are built, let's talk about the use cases. What can you achieve when you're using a Microsoft Sentinel playbook? So you can use those playbooks to do enrichment, to, for example, collect data from third-party systems or from first-party system and attach that information to the incident in order for the analyst to make a smarter decision, so to be enriched with other data and be able to take a more informed decision. We also use them for orchestration. So for example, you might want to use the SOC chat platform to better control the incidents queue, to discuss with other colleagues in your team, which is the best way, the best approach to solve a specific incident. That can also be a use case where you can use playbooks to assist. Also to sync your Microsoft Sentinel incidents with other systems. You might have other ITSM systems or other kind of tools where you want to also reflect those incidents that are being raised in Sentinel. So that's also a possibility that you can accomplish with your playbooks. And lastly, also response. So obviously, this is a very important one, to immediately respond to threats with minimal human dependency or interaction, or with non-interaction at all. Okay, so before we start diving deeper into playbooks, we have to mention that playbooks in Microsoft Sentinel are based on Azure Logic Apps. So Azure Logic Apps is a serverless service in Azure that allows you to do this scheduling, automation, and orchestrations of tasks across different systems throughout the enterprise. As you can see on the right, we have many different connectors, not only for first-party services, but also for third-party services. And these connectors, they use REST APIs to communicate with that third-party or first-party service. You see here many logos, but Benji, which one is your favorite? Of course, the Microsoft Sentinel one doesn't count because I know that's your favorite. But from the other ones, which one you think is the best, and which one the customers use the most?
Well, I would say Microsoft Sentinel, but I cannot choose it now. So, well, although we have like a lot of these third-party integrations with Palo Alto, ServiceNow, many different firewall solutions, etc., I must say in the house and say Microsoft Teams, actually. Microsoft Teams with adoption cards are giving like really, really nice solution. So when the incident happens or when you need to respond to something, you can include everything of those things inside of the Microsoft Teams adaptive card, send it inside of the chat and channel message, and actually respond from the Microsoft Teams and then take that action back to the Sentinel. Close incident, raise lower severity, so whatever you need.
Yeah, thanks. I have to agree that those adaptive cards in Teams, they look really, really nice, really, really slick, and they really help automate those actions from Teams. Cool. Okay, so let's talk about Logic App connectors. But there's one thing here that causes confusions to customers and partners, and we want to make sure we get this right. So Sentinel, so Benji, what is basically the issue or that confusion that we see customers and partners having between Logic App connectors and Microsoft Sentinel data connectors? What's the difference?
The difference is that Microsoft Sentinel data connectors is actually taking the logs inside of the Microsoft Sentinel. So is it like API logs so that we are ingesting inside of the Log Analytics workspace, storing inside of the tables so that we can use it to create incidents, analytic rules, etc. While Logic App connectors are actually REST API connectors, where we are connecting directly to the solution itself so that we can respond to some incident, so that we can block IP or to enrich so that we can get data from VirusTotal or RiskIQ about IP or URL. So it is, one is for storing the data, one is for, let's say, responding and automating the tasks.
Perfect. Clear. Thank you, Benji. Thanks for clearing that out. Important differentiation that you need to take into account. Okay, so what Azure Logic Apps are made out of. So basically, they have two main components, what we call triggers and what we call actions. So let's see what a trigger is. So a trigger is an event that occurs when a specific set of conditions is satisfied. So for example, in Microsoft Sentinel, we have the incident trigger. So whenever an incident is actually raised in Sentinel, that executes or triggers the action for this Logic App or this playbook to actually start executing. Then we have action. So an action is an operation that performs a task in the workflow of the Logic App. So in the case of Sentinel, for example, we have things like, hey, update the incident, for example, or maybe add an alert to an existing incident. An action runs when the trigger activates. You have basically a flow that goes in order, and we'll see that in Benji's demo. And then another action completes or a condition is met. One thing that besides the trigger and actions is also an important part of Logic Apps and playbooks is dynamic fields. So these are temporary fields determined by the output schema of a trigger or an action populated in the actual output. So basically you have your trigger that comes with additional information. For example, in the Microsoft Sentinel incident trigger, that brings the information from the incident itself. And then you can use in the steps that go after that, you can use the information coming from that Microsoft Sentinel incident, and so on with the different actions. You see also in the demo. Okay, so let's talk about the Microsoft Sentinel connector itself in Logic Apps, okay? And what are the triggers that it has? It has the Microsoft Sentinel alert trigger. So whenever a new alert is created in Sentinel, that's when this trigger happens, basically. And the playbook, when this trigger is raised, the playbook receives the alert as its input. So all the information in the alert will be coming into the Logic App connector. Also, we have the Microsoft Sentinel incident trigger. This is triggered when an incident is created in Sentinel or when an incident is updated in Sentinel. The playbook receives, obviously, the incident as its input, including all the alerts and incidents that are part of that. And then we have one that is quite special. It's the Microsoft Sentinel Entity Trigger that is coming soon. Benji, can you tell us a little bit more about this one specifically?
Oh yeah, this is really what will make our story like whole when it comes to the actual triggers and inside of the playbooks. And instead of reacting to the alert and incidents where we can contain multiple entities which we don't maybe want to block or to enrich, we will have option actually to run a playbook on specific entity inside of that incident. So it can be IP, URL, host, account, etc.
Got it. Very good. Cool. So let's talk now about the different actions that are available in the Microsoft Sentinel Logic App connector. So you see here on the right a screenshot with just a bunch of them, because there's the list is quite long, as you can see on the right. And here we try to summarize them. So we have the option to add an alert or remove an alert from an incident. We can add comments to an incident to provide more information to the analyst. We can create, update, or delete bookmarks. So bookmarks are used to capture additional evidence that you can attach to an incident. You can obviously create an incident itself. There might be occasions where you want to create a new incident based on specific conditions in the workflow. Also, we can work with entities like get accounts, get hosts, get file hashes, IP addresses that are part of the incident, and then be able to treat them. We can also update incident with different things like adding tags. We can change the severity, change the owner, and we can also create, update, or delete watch lists. Lastly, we also wanted to talk about the authentication in the Logic App connector. So we have three main ways to authorize this connector, for this connector to be able to talk to Sentinel or perform actions there. We have the managed identity, which is currently in public preview. We have the service principal option, and we have the user identity option. Benji, which one of these three is the recommended one that we tell customers and partners to use?
So actually, we always suggest people to utilize managed identity as a path to least privilege, actually, because managed identity will be enabled only on that Logic App, and the permission that you are assigning only to that Logic App. And you don't need to actually handle any keys, secret, or anything in the background. So it is removing one extra security risk. It is only connected to that specific Logic App that you will be running. So second will be service principal, where you actually need to control the secrets for that service principal, store it in Azure Key Vault for safekeeping. But you can utilize it among many Logic Apps. But also when you remove the permissions or anything, it will affect many Logic Apps. And user identity, user needs to have the permissions all the time. So if you are utilizing the PIM, privileged identity management, you will actually have issues that when you don't have PIM enabled, you are not in permanent way, the playbook will not have permissions to run. So that's why we are sticking with managed identity and actually suggesting always to utilize managed identity.
Perfect. Pretty clear. You heard it, guys, from the expert. Managed identity, whenever possible, always use that. We manage the keys for you. We manage the identity for you, instead of having to deal with, managing those keys manually in a Key Vault or somewhere else. Cool. So we came to exercise 1. Benji, can you take us through what is going to be, what are you going to be doing? What are you going to be showing us in this first exercise?
Sure. So first, we will be creating the playbook, of course. Then we will be adding the incident trigger inside of this playbook. And we'll be utilizing Microsoft Sentinel connector. Then we'll be adding comments and tags to that incident, grant permissions to Sentinel so that you can actually run that playbook, and show you how you can actually run that playbook on demand. So let's go ahead and create our playbook. first thing that we actually need to do inside of the Microsoft Sentinel is to go to the automation, where actually we have all the automation rules and playbooks stored in respective tabs. So automation rules and active playbooks, where we'll see all those. If we want to create the new playbook, we need to click on Create, where we have the selection from automation rule, playbook with incident trigger, playbook with alert trigger, where incident and alert trigger will automatically be added, and blank playbook. In this case, we will start with the blank playbook. So when we are clicking on the blank playbook, it will open us the window where we will be actually start creating. So first selecting where we want to deploy it. So subscription, the resource group. In this case, I will choose Ignite as a resource group. And in this case, we are working on consumption playbook. So changing to consumption and putting in the name. So Ignite exercise 1. The location where we want to deploy it. So in this case, I will choose East US. And we will click on Review and Create. When we click on Review and Create, this system will go through the validation so that it makes sure that everything that we actually put in is correct and that we can go ahead and deploy our playbook. And once validation finishes, we can click on Create. Clicking on Create, it will initialize the deployment of our logic app in the background, where the system is now working on creating and deploying this specific logic app inside of our resource group. So this will go through the whole process. So initializing, submitting, creating the playbook, and soon we will be able to see our playbook created, and we will be able to start working on this playbook. So here it is, deployment in progress. And now we need to wait for a couple of seconds so the deployment is completed. And we can see the next steps, deployment details. And if I would need to go to this actual resource, I can click on it and it will lead me to the resource so that I can start working on it. Here we can see our overview of our logic app, and we can actually start now on creating it. Since this is our blank playbook, we can choose from multiple templates that are available inside of the Azure Logic App so that we can create the playbook, or we can start by creating the blank Logic App, which is our idea to start. So when we start actually with this, we will need to choose the trigger. So when this will trigger, when this playbook will trigger, we need to search for Microsoft Sentinel. So for the reason I already have Microsoft Sentinel there, and or if it is not available, I can search it and click through it. And now we can see the triggers that we already mentioned that are available for us. And as I mentioned, we will be utilizing Microsoft Sentinel Incident Trigger. Let's choose it. And it is asking us how we want actually to enable it. So do we want to enable it with user identity so that I sign in? Do I want to enable it with service principal? Or maybe I want to connect it with managed identity. When we are deploying with blank playbook, it doesn't have managed identity enabled for us. And in exercise 2 that is coming up, we will see how it can be enabled from the start. When we are using create playbook with incident trigger from the Sentinel itself. So if I click here on connect with managed identity, it will say that my logic app currently doesn't have managed identity enabled. So what I actually need to do is click on Ignite exercise 1. That will lead me back to my logic app, go to identity, and I will need to enable inside of the identity system assigned managed identity. That system assigned managed identity will give me possibility to utilize that managed identity that is assigned to system. So we click on save, yes, and now it will actually create that managed identity for me in the background. Now I can go back to my Logic App Designer. Again, we will choose blank playbook. And we will go with Microsoft Sentinel, of course. Incident trigger. And now when I click on Manage Identity, we can see here that this is available, and I will give it name Ignite Exercise number 1. And click, of course, on Create. So this is the trigger. This is when Playbook will be run. So next, what we want is to do something with it. We just don't want that it triggers. So that's why we have those actions. And let's add some action. Javier, what we want as an action?
So, I mean, you mentioned that we want to add some tags and we want to add some comments, right? So I
Yes.
guess first we need to update the Microsoft Sentinel incident with some tagging.
Yes. So to actually add the tags, we need to utilize the update. And even if you don't spell it correctly, as I have done, we still have option to choose our update incident. And the first thing that we need to do is to enter the incident ARM ID. But don't worry, this doesn't mean that you need to go and find this incident ARM ID. We don't want to hard code that inside of our playbooks. We will actually utilize the dynamic content that Javier already mentioned. And dynamic content, so actually from the Microsoft Sentinel incident trigger, we are getting this kind of information. So whenever incident is triggered, we will get this information from that trigger. And we want ARM ID, so we will go and here search for incident ARM ID, and here we can see the incident ARM ID. Selecting incident ARM ID, it will fill it for us inside of our update incident action. And now we can see like all the elements of playbook that Javier was mentioning. So let's repeat it. We have the trigger. So when incident, when we respond to the incident, so this is how we are triggering it. So playbook is getting that it needs to run. Then we have the action that is actually doing something after it is triggered. And we have the dynamic content, which is actually connected to this here specific playbook. So we are getting those, and it is easier just to manage and not to write down all those things. And we mentioned we want to add some tags. So Javier, the first tag, what to put? Any idea?
Maybe we can put, for example, the owner
of
the incident.
Let's go owner, and let's again put the owner. Okay, so again, no need to hard code anything here. We can still use the dynamic content, and let's search for owner, and we can see here owner, and I want owner email. So I will choose an owner email. Should we add another tag maybe?
Yeah, why not? Like, for example, severity maybe?
Yeah, okay, let's do it. Severity. And again, I will not do anything. I will just search for incident severity. Select it. And now we have our update of the incident. We can, of course, update incident with many more details if you want, change the owner, adding new parameters for it. And we can see that it is actually connected to our managed identity that we added here. So no need to do anything from that perspective. And as I can recall, we have another action to add. So one was to update, and second one was
to add a comment. Yeah, so I think there's an action in the Microsoft Sentinel connector that is adding a comment, right?
Yes. So add comment to an incident. And now, again, the first thing is we need to know to which incident to put it in. Again, we will search for incident ARM ID. And we can see that now we can choose dynamic content not only from our trigger, but also from our actions. So as we are adding more actions, we will have more options to choose from dynamic content. But I will stick with my incident trigger, and we need to put, of course, some comment. So Javier, any idea what to put?
I don't know, like, for example, you can say incident is in progress, the owner is whoever the owner is, the severity is whatever the severity is.
Okay, let's do it. Owner is, and then we will search the owner, incident owner. And we want to say severity of the incident is, and then we will choose here severity, and here it is severity. So now we have the information that we want to use. So the first thing that we actually want to do is to save it, so that we don't lose our progress, what we have done. But also, for a second, stop and think, okay? I have Microsoft Sentinel incident creation, but I need to do two actions. I need to update incident and I need to add a comment. To do those things, what kind of permissions I need to have on Sentinel? As we are using the manage identity. So there is identity in the background. That identity needs to have enough permissions, as we mentioned. So in Microsoft Sentinel, actually to update incident, we need to have Microsoft Sentinel responder role. And that's why we actually need to go now to our identity. And we can see that it is turned on. And we will go to Azure Resources so that we can actually assign this permission to our environment. So this is the subscription that I want to assign it. So I can now select scope. So I will go to the resource group and I will go to the resource group where Sentinel is. So my actually Sentinel is in different resource group. So I will choose the cybersecurity and I will be here running now responder role. And here it is, Microsoft Sentinel responder. Save, and now this role will be assigned. So now we have the playbook, we assign the permissions. What next we need to do? Javier, do you know maybe?
Not sure.
The first thing that we actually need to do is to make sure that Microsoft Sentinel have permission to run a playbook.
Oh, right.
And this is specific permission called Microsoft Sentinel automation contributor that is specifically designed for Microsoft Sentinel, that is giving him, actually the Microsoft Sentinel, permission to run a playbook. So how to do that? So we can go to settings of Microsoft Sentinel, to playbook permissions, configure permissions, and we need to make sure that under current permissions, we have that resource group where we deploy the playbook. And in this case, I don't have that one. So under Browse, I will find my Ignite 2022, select it, and click on Apply. So now it will be assigning Microsoft Sentinel permission so that we can actually run this specific playbook. To run a playbook, and in this case, we mentioned that we'll be running it on demand, we will go to the incident. And of course, we need to have the incident first. And now we need to run a playbook. So how we will actually run a playbook is right-click on the incident, run playbook, and it will open us the list of the playbooks that we have. We can mark any of them as our favorites. So since I just created it, it is not my favorite. So let's search for it. And let's make sure that we have all the resource groups enabled. So let's refresh, so that it gets the permission that we just assigned. Let's make sure that it is assigned. It should be. So.
And you can, by the way, Benji, run these playbooks from several places, right? You can do it from here, yes, right-clicking on the incident, but you can also click on actions in the incident details, right?
Yes, so you can click on actions inside of the incident details. You can go and click, when you open the incident itself, on the actions, and you can run a playbook from there. So from all three of them, you will have actually the same experience. So let's see, is our permission assigned already? So it still looks like, and here. As favorite now, and we can run it as well. So now it will trigger the playbook, and we can see the playbook is triggered successfully. And the one thing that we can go actually is inside of our playbook. We can go to the overview and see actual did it run successfully or not. We can see that it succeeded. So if it failed, here is where you want to go actually and see why it failed. And if we go to our incident, and let's go to view field details, and let's go to our tags and refresh the data. We can see now the owner.
There it is.
We can see the severity. We can see the comment that we are added. And this is how you can start and create your first playbook, run it, and see the results. Back to you, Javier, for some more information about automation and playbooks.
Awesome. Thanks, Benji. Okay, so it's time actually for our first knowledge check to just test your knowledge in the chat. Also remember that you have your moderators on the line in case you have questions. Feel free to enter them so they can also provide you with assistance. But let's go with this first question. So this is question number 1. So let's see. An administrator needs to create a Microsoft Sentinel playbook. The administrator creates a logic app and it starts the logic app designer that you have just seen in Benji's demo. Which of the following connector should the administrator use as a trigger to your playbook? And we have three possible answers. A is Office 365 connector, B is Microsoft Sentinel connector, or C is the Azure Active Directory connector. Benji, what do you think about this one? What do you think is the right answer?
Let's first go and say that what is not. So I would say that Office 365 connector is for sure not, since it's not connected to Azure and to actual Microsoft Sentinel in this case as connector. Maybe you want to trigger it when email is received, but this actually wants to react on Microsoft Sentinel. The second that we can say that is not for sure, Azure Active Directory for sure is not as well, because that can trigger something about identity, but we actually need to trigger it on Microsoft Sentinel itself. So correct answer in this case is Microsoft Sentinel connector, as you mentioned, which is triggering on alert or in the incidents that are inside of the Microsoft Sentinel.
Very good. And I see that the majority of our users are actually responding correctly, Microsoft Sentinel connector. So very good, guys. Let's go with question number 2, Benji.
Okay, so what is dynamic content in a logic app? A, list of dynamically selected threads. B, list of dynamic inputs for the current action. Or C, list of dynamic users. Javier, what do you think?
Tough one, right? So first of all, we have the list of dynamically selected threads. We have many different content that can come dynamically from the connector, but it's just not limited to threads, I would say, right? I think it can be other things, right? So I would say that A is probably not it. Then we have also option C, list of dynamic users. So that, of course, we can have also users as part of the dynamic content that comes from the previous action or the trigger, but that's limited to just users, and we can have many more things, right? Like we saw in Benji's demo, right? We can have the severity or the owner. So actually the correct answer in this one is B. It's the list of dynamic inputs for the current action. And I see on this one that we got a little bit of different opinions, but still very good, guys. You did great. And then we have question number 3. So you want to search for a suitable threat detection query or a playbook that you can use for your requirements. Where can you search for such items? We have option A, the Azure Architecture Center, B, Microsoft Learn, or C, Microsoft Sentinel Content Hub. Benji, what do you think about this one, about question number 3?
Okay, so let's go through it. So Azure Architecture Center, I believe that there is a lot of useful information inside of the Azure Architecture Center, but it is actually not the place where we want to go search for detection queries, playbooks, or anything that's connected to Microsoft Sentinel. Then we have Microsoft Learn. Another great list of resources that we can find inside of the Microsoft Learn. But when we are actually inside of the Microsoft Sentinel, we don't want to go to Microsoft Learn to search for any detection queries, playbooks, or anything around it. So in this case, the actual answer is actually Microsoft Sentinel Content Hub, as we mentioned, where we have all those solutions, and we already mentioned that we have more than 200 solutions inside of Microsoft Content Hub, from where you can utilize and deploy not only playbooks but hunting queries or anything around it.
Very good. So yeah, definitely Microsoft Sentinel Content Hub is the right one. Cool. Let's continue. So we have let's talk about automation rules, right? We talked about in depth about playbooks in the beginning, in the first section of the session. So let's talk about automation rules now. So first of all, automation rules, we define them briefly at the beginning. They allow users to centrally manage the automation of incident handling. I here have a screenshot. Benji, of course, will show you more about this in the live demo. And it has several main elements as part of an automation rule. First, we have the trigger. So when is this automation rule going to start? Once it's going to start executing, right? Then we have the conditions. So when, what are the conditions that are going to be that have to be met in order for the actions to be executed? And actions is obviously the third component, the third element. There's several actions that we're going to review in the slide. So whenever the action is triggered and the conditions are met, then the actions will be executed. Okay, let's talk about the triggers. So there's mainly three triggers. And there's only three triggers in automation rules in Microsoft Sentinel. The first one is when an incident is created. So this automation rule will be executed or triggered every time an incident is created. When an incident is updated, this is something that we recently added and it's currently in public preview. And we also have the when an alert is created. Let's talk about the conditions. So they are used to define when an action will be run, and the conditions can be configured with an and or conditions. Main conditions that we have is based on incident details and incident entities. So for example, you can say, hey, if the severity of the incident is low, or if it's high, or if the incident entity, for example, is Benji or Javier, you can add those kind of conditions depending on the details of the incident itself, or if the status is a specific status that you want to act on. Those are the main things that you can do there. And then we have operators, right, that you can use, which are equals, does not equals, contains, does not contain, or if the specific field or value was changed or was added. But Benji, I think that lately we've been adding additional features to these conditions, right?
Yes, actually. So very recently we added first condition that we can utilize custom details. So if you have any custom details inside of your Microsoft Sentinel incident, you can actually make conditions to filter based on those custom details that you are utilizing. Really great addition. But also, what is even better is that we added or inside of the conditions, which is now giving us possibility to work on multiple conditions where we can compare and make better conditions and filtering, which is also giving us possibility to make better nested automation rules so that you can check multiple values, multiple stuff inside of the incident itself, and to be sure to run automation rule on a correct incident.
Very good, very good. Great addition. Cool. And then we have the actions. So what are the actions that we can execute from the automation rule? So again, when the trigger happens, when the conditions are met, then the actions execute. And these are the 5 different actions that we can execute. First of all, run a playbook. So run a playbook is the one that opens up a lot of possibilities, right? You saw in Benji's demo just a glimpse of what you're able to do, right? And he was just using a single connector for Sentinel. But again, you can interact with many other tools, utilizing all the different connectors that we have for many different systems, right? So run playbook is one option, opening up a wide range of possibilities. And then you can do 4 other actions that are are basically change the status of the incident. You can maybe say, okay, if the status is low, but I see that the entity that is affected is a VIP, is someone important in the organization, I want to make sure that the incident is raised to a higher to status or severity, right? I can also change the severity, let's say to high if it's coming from low or medium. You can also assign an owner, a new owner to the incident to make sure that someone specifically takes care of a specific type of incident, right? Maybe you have a person in the team that always takes care of a type of specific incident. And you can also add tags, obviously. So these are the main actions. Cool. So with that, we came to exercise number 2. Benji, can you explain what this exercise is about?
Yes, so actually here we will be working on multiple things again. So first, creating a playbook. Then we will be adding incident trigger, send email notification to the user, so something that is not Microsoft Sentinel connector. We will again grant permissions to Sentinel to run a playbook. This is already done in exercise 1, but if you didn't do it, you need to do it. We will create automation rule, attach our playbook to automation rule with update trigger, and actually show how you can run that automation rule. So let's go and create our playbook. The first thing, again, that we need to do is go to our automation tab, and now we will utilize different options to create a playbook. So first, we were creating from blank playbook, but now I will utilize playbook with incident trigger, and you will see the difference here. So when we click and select playbook, we will be choosing where we want actually to deploy it. So in which subscription we want to deploy, in what resource group we want to deploy. Do I want to deploy directly to my cybersecurity? Do I want to deploy it inside of my Ignite demo? It doesn't matter now. I have permissions on both of them, and we are giving the name. So in this case, Ignite Exercise 2, and we will go to connections. So here, as I mentioned, we can automatically enable managed identity and connect it utilizing our managed identity, but we also can utilize any of the service principals or the user identity that we already have inside of the Microsoft Sentinel, and that it is authorized actually. I will leave my managed identity, I love my managed identity. So now we will go and review and create our Microsoft Sentinel. And again, the difference here, when we are creating it, it will automatically open for us the designer. So let's click and go. So the process, again, the same. It is going to initializing the deployment, submitting the deployment, going through the deployment itself. But the difference is that it will actually automatically open my Logic App Designer, where I can start working. And the one thing that will system do for me is that it will add the trigger automatically, and it will be Microsoft Sentinel incident trigger. And we can see here that it is connected actually to my managed identity, and I don't need to go back now to identity from here to enable it. It is already enabled. I just need to go there if I need to assign any permissions, like if I need to respond or update to the specific incident, change the incident, then I will need to go and deploy it. Now we will choose option. As I can recall, Javier, we mentioned that we want to send an email, right?
That's correct. That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so in this case, that will be the new connector. And now we'll be utilizing it is Office 365 Outlook connector. That will give us option to actually send this email. And now we can see it here, Office 365 Outlook. And now we can see all the actions that are connected to Office 365 Outlook. So we can delete an event, we can flag email, forward an email using everything that is available with the API actually. And now what I want to do is to send email. And now I have the options to send an email, send email from shared mailbox if you need to utilize it, or if you want to send any approvals, which is amazing feature. If you want to send and go ahead and send email with 2 or 3 options to choose from, and based on the selected option, you can like close the incident directly from the email. You can go and submit and run some other playbooks, whatever you want to put inside of those options. So in this case, we want to send an email. And the first option is to whom I want to send it. So in this case, I want to send it actually to the owner. So here I will search for owner, and I want to make sure that I'm actually selecting incident owner email, because here it will contain actually the email of the owner of the incident. The subject, as this will be that the new incident is assigned, I will just be like that and say like new incident assigned. And now we need to add specific information inside of our body. So Javier, what do you think it will be important for the new owner of the incident to be able to see inside of?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, to be able to find useful information for him or her would be like things like the title, the severity, the description. Yeah, the incident URL. Maybe also to go directly and visit the incident from there.
Okay. So you mentioned title, and again, don't forget our dynamic content. So incident title. Then we want to see severity.
Severity.
It
Yeah,
is
severity
always
also
important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will just change here to severity. Then we want to see the description. It always can contain a lot of useful information when they are seeing the incident. So description. Then assigned by. Really important, I think, information that we can share, I think. So assigned by, so that we know who actually assigned it to us, so that we can go over and search for him if we don't like this incident. So that will be actually inside of the updated by, and we can see here the details. So updated by, and I will choose the updated by name. And you also mentioned the incident URL, so that we know and go and visit the incident itself. So incident URL. And let's just find where it is. Don't use incident updates alert URL, that is for URLs. And we need actually the incident URL. What we can actually do is also, because it's a new incident assigned to somebody, we want to put higher importance, but we also can add a couple more parameters here. So if we want to utilize send as option, CC, BCC, add any attachment, etc. And also here, this is important aspect, who is authorizing the connection. This will actually be the person who is sending the email, and this person must have Exchange Online license. So this is really, really important, so that you can utilize. If you want to change to somebody else, you will click on change connection and add anybody else from your list if you have anybody else from here, or if you need, you will need to add new. But don't forget, here you will need actually to sign in. So you will have the window where you will be actually signing in, so that you can get give permission to this playbook, so that it can send email in your name. So let's close this up, because I already have it. Save it, of course. In this case, I don't need any other permissions to be assigned. I just trigger it, send the email. I already authorized it, so nothing from here to do. So what actually I want to do is to run it on the update. So let's go back to our automation. And when you are in Sentinel, always move with top menu. It is really, really easy and nice way. And we want to create the automation rule. So automation rule, now we are giving in name of the automation rule. So ignite automation rule. Trigger. So when we want that it is run, when incident is created, when incident is updated, and when alert is created. So when we are changing this, actually we will be able to see the changes inside of the conditions. Because like when we change from incident is created to incident is updated, we will have additional conditions that are connected to the updated. And when we choose, when alert is created, the only condition is actually that we can choose on which alert it will be run. So this is really important to know. So in this case, we want when incident is updated, we want it on all our incidents, but we have the conditions. And I want to make a condition and we already say when owner as incident property is changed. So when the incident is changed, what I want to do? So I want to run a playbook. So from the actions, we will choose run a playbook. And from the list of the playbook, now we will choose the playbook that we actually just created. So let's go and search for our Ignite. And we are choosing our Ignite exercise 2. If we don't have permission, we will see here option that we don't have permission actually, and we'll be able to go to settings and apply this permission. But I already have permission on Ignite exercise 2. I have on Ignite exercises, I already assigned it, so I can go ahead and run it. So let's just go over again, make sure that we configured everything correctly. The name, the update trigger condition when the owner is changed, run playbook Ignite exercise 2, apply. And what we can do actually is to change the order so that it doesn't go to end of our list, but let's put it on the first list, because like all the automation rules are run by order number, so starting from 1 and finishing with the last one. So now we can see that this one is first for us, so that it is run first. And now what we need to do actually is to go to the incidents and change the owner. So here we'll go to our incident, and from our incident view, we will go and change the owner. So I want to actually that it is assigned to me, and I will go and assign, apply. So now we can see that this is actually assigned to me, and now automation rule in the background will be triggered. That automation rule will trigger the playbook, and I already hear the noise telling me that I received a new email, and let's go see that email. Okay, so this is from the SOC saying me that my new incident is assigned, and I can see here all the information about this incident. And look, I have also the link. When I click on it, it will actually lead me to my incident so that I can start triaging it. And also we can see who actually assigned it to me. So since I done it to myself, I can scream on myself if I don't like it. But this is all the information that we can actually get in. So we added the severity, and we can see that we pick up the high, the title, the description. So everything is here, and we can now go and work on it. We will see everything that we already done, including the tags from our previous exercise, the comments from our previous exercise, and other comments that I have. So I had some enrichments done telling me that this is malicious IP. So probably I need to go and block this IP, make sure that it is added to TI's list, and that I'm safe. Congrats. So we just created our second playbook. We created our first automation rule as well. And now let's go back to Javier for some new questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Benji. We want to apologize because in the first knowledge check, I think there was an out of order question there. So sorry about that. Hopefully this one is all okay. So this is question number 4. So let me read the question itself. So an administrator needs to create a Microsoft Sentinel automation rule. What trigger the administrator cannot use? So the answer A is when incident is created. Answer B is when owner is assigned. Answer C, when incident is updated. Answer D, when alert is created. Benji, what do you think?
Oh, this is tricky. This one is tricky. So let's go and just let's repeat. This is what cannot be used.
Cannot be assigned, yes.
Okay. So for sure, if you had followed my demo, you just saw that I was using when incident is updated.
Yes.
And we just have information that unfortunately our polls don't match the questions. So please answer in the heads. And we are apologizing for this. As we mentioned, this is something that we are preparing to publish in your Microsoft Learn, and you will be able to utilize all these questions really soon. So remember them. So as I mentioned, if you have followed my demo, we just utilized when incident is updated. So if you choose this one, you didn't follow me. The second one that I mentioned during that demo was when incident is created. where you can actually run the automation rule based on that. And the third one, as you remember, when alert is created, I already mentioned as well. So this is tricky because when owner is assigned is actually a condition and not the trigger.
Exactly. Yeah, tricky one, but important one as well. Cool. Next question. Benji, go ahead.
What permissions we need to assign to Microsoft Sentinel so that we can add the playbook as an action? So A, Microsoft Sentinel contributor, B, Microsoft Sentinel automation operator, C, Microsoft Sentinel automation contributor, or D, Microsoft Sentinel playbook operator. Javier.
Yeah, also not an easy one, right? So I know for sure that B, Microsoft Sentinel automation operator, that doesn't sound like a role to me. I never seen that role again ever. So I think that's probably just one option that we have there to confuse. So I don't think it's B for sure. A is for sure a role in Microsoft Sentinel contributor that normally we assign to the SOC engineer to be able to edit analytic rules and things like that. That's too wide, right? And I don't think that really would follow the least privilege paradigm, right? So I don't think that's the one. Microsoft Sentinel playbook operator, if they assign that to me, I would be able to run the playbook. But that's not what Sentinel needs to run the playbook. Actually, the answer in this case is C. The Microsoft Sentinel automation contributor role is the one that Sentinel needs in order to call that playbook. Okay, so yeah, we need to skip this one because we're running out of time. So we wanted to also do the summary, Benji.
Yes, so what we actually have learned, hopefully today, is what actually Microsoft Sentinel SOAR capabilities are. We also went and learned what are capabilities of Microsoft Sentinel Logic App Connector, and we learned how to create the playbook and run it on demand in response to an incident, so exercise number 1. And we also learned how to create a playbook attached to the automation rule as automated response to an incident, and that is exercise number 2. As we mentioned, our Microsoft Learn module is currently under development for this exercise that we went through. And soon it will be published for you so that you can go over. I hope that you remember the questions and that you will be able to answer them really quickly. And stay tuned for more content.